Sometimes the biggest divide isn't between coworkers. It's between the reality inside the workplace and the reality waiting at home. You didn't hear it from me, but my wife's coworker told me she was cheating with her supervisor at work. It cost her marriage, and a letter to HR cost her career. I, 30 male, have been married to Rose, 30 female, for 3 years. For the most part, our marriage was okay. We didn't have life figured out, but things were getting better. Sadly, they're not good anymore. I don't have any power over the way things are going to go. As far as she knows, everything is fine, but that's simply because I haven't confronted her yet. She still has some time to think that we're on good terms and we'll spend the rest of our lives together. The big problem stems from her career. It's part of the reason why I said that things were getting better for us. I've climbed in my job. I'm great at what I do, and it pays well, but the ceiling for that job isn't the highest in the world. Her job has a much higher ceiling. She started off relatively low on the ladder. In just 3 years, she has climbed a lot. I've been proud of her, but that pride is gone. It makes sense why everything went so well for her. There's a man in a senior position at her workplace. His name is Tom. Every time that she has talked about him, she has described him as a grandfather type. That's exactly how I've seen him all these years. She told me that he took a liking to her, and he has helped her out a lot in her career. He helps with advice, he listens to her presentations before she presents them for real, and he supports her in other ways. He's been a major help to her in that workplace. He started off as one of the senior workers in the office, but over the years, he eventually became her direct supervisor. Before you tell me that no man would do all of that for free, I've seen Tom before. I've met him on multiple occasions. He really is old enough to feel like a grandpa. He's at least 60. He's treated me like his grandchild every time I've seen him, even knowing I'm Rose's husband. People take on mentorship roles in workplaces, so it really never seemed like there was anything else to the situation between the two of them. This is one of the times that I wish that I was wrong, but I'm not. Rose has been cheating on me with Tom. I don't know if that was always the arrangement and that was why he's been so sweet for her. I don't know if they started sleeping together because of the proximity his niceness brought. I'm not sure exactly what was going on behind the scenes, but I know that this woman has been cheating on me, and I'm crushed. Rose and I have only been married 3 years, but we have truly gone down a very long path together. I paid for her master's studies. I never regretted it because it had all paid off until this moment. She's earned more than enough to make up for what we spent, thanks to the boost that she got from the degree and the knowledge that came with it. I made a big sacrifice regardless, and it kills me to feel that sacrifice was taken advantage of to the fullest. I genuinely feel like I was played for a fool, even though she likely wasn't cheating on me at that time. I just think that it is easy for us to appreciate the things that our partners do or have done in the past, and make sure that we behave ourselves when we feel tempted to start sporting an attitude or when someone else is looking more appealing than they should. I don't think she has thought of me. She just did what she wanted to do, I'll assume, which is to cheat on me and sleep with a man who is more than old enough to be her dad. It's crazy. And I know the next thing that most people must be wondering is exactly how I found out. That might be the most interesting part of the whole tale. I wouldn't have found out. That just makes me feel worse. I was oblivious to everything that was going on, despite being married to her. I don't think that I was particularly unobservant. I don't think I was too dumb to notice anything going on. I just think she played a good enough role lying to me that I was never going to find out what was going on. Her coworker is the entire reason that I know what's going on between her and Tom. I was coming out from my workplace after a long day, so I was a bit grumpy. A lady stepped out of her car, walked up to me and said hi. I mumbled one back because I knew whatever a random person had to say to me wasn't going to make my day any better. I think she read me well because I perked up when she introduced herself and said that she was one of Rose's coworkers. The first thing I wanted to do was make sure she was okay, which she was. She told me she hadn't come to deliver emergency news, but it was bad news nonetheless, and it was about Rose. I didn't know what this woman could have to tell me. She said that her name was Ella, and she was relatively plain looking, so I couldn't imagine that there was any reason she'd be trying to prank me or stir up trouble. She wanted to know if I had some time to sit down somewhere and talk. I told her I was in a rush and she could tell me the bad news. It was amusing and annoying when she refused. She said we needed to sit down properly, even if it was in the same parking lot. She wouldn't tell me when I was half hanging out of my car. I was annoyed. That was my genuine reaction, but I stepped out of my car and pointed out a place that we could sit down and talk about whatever it was that she had brought to me. I was miffed though, so as soon as we sat down, I prompted her to say whatever it was. That didn't help because she still seemed hesitant to speak. I didn't prod her at that point. I was going to let her get to it herself. She asked me if I knew Tom, and I told her I did. I had met him a few times, and he was a nice old man. She agreed with me that he was nice. She told me that I needed to be worried. I asked her to clarify if she meant that I was meant to be worried about Tom and Rose, and she said yes, which I actually laughed at. I genuinely never saw that old man as a threat, and I told her as much, but she didn't seem amused, and she just shook her head slowly. She said the gossip happened in the workplace, and there was a rumor going around that Tom and Rose had been sleeping together. I felt my heart jump in my chest when she said that. The words were in a reality that I felt wasn't mine, but they were still shocking to hear. I told her that it was unlikely, and I had never seen a single sign of that, so it was probably the kind of silly gossip that happens among schoolgirls, and not usually between career professionals. She told me not to take it so lightly. She had been able to trace it back to another coworker who served as an assistant to one of the other senior employees in the office. She had apparently heard her senior chatting casually with Tom about Rose and how she was in bed. The assistant had told a close friend or two in the office, since no one had any idea before that, and then it spread throughout the office after that. She said that it seemed like it had weight to it, and it wasn't the kind of thing that she'd advised me to take lightly. It was pretty sudden, but I got irritated sitting there and listening to what she was saying, so I stood up. I told her that I acknowledged her message, and I would figure things out to find out whether it was true or not. She just nodded and thanked me for listening. I asked her why she had decided to go through the trouble of telling me that. I asked how she even knew how to find me. She claimed that Rose talked about me all the time, which included where I worked. A bit too much information, but despite the situation, I found it sweet that she cares enough to talk about me at work that much. Ella told me that she just felt bad. Her dad had been cheated on by her mom, and their entire family had fallen apart because of that. Her dad ended up taking his life, and she felt it was all because he was in an unfaithful marriage for too many years, and finding out the truth crushed him. She acknowledged that, and in a way, it might have been better to leave that me ignorant, but she couldn't do that. She knew it would be better to let me know earlier in the marriage than have me find out the truth years down the line. The way I'm built, she's right about that. I might have gotten unhinged if I had to find all of this out when I was 10 years into the marriage, with children. Ultimately, it was just an act she did out of desire to do good, and annoyed as I was to be saddled with the heavy information suddenly, I thanked her sincerely for letting me know. I was quick to leave after that. I went back home and Rose was already around. She was happy to see me and asked where I had been, so I put up an act and made up some excuse. I remember how unsure I was at the time, because I looked at her closely and I couldn't get myself to believe that the woman sitting in front of me, who I loved so intensely, could have been cheating on me. It was just hard for me to swallow that. Of course, I knew that the only place I was going to get the truth was by hiring a PI or figuring out the kinds of things that Tom and Rose talked about when no one was around. Her phone was the best way for me to get a glimpse into that latter. She's a light sleeper, but I knew the best time to figure anything out was going to be when she was sleeping. I was also not going to wait any longer than I had to, so I knew that I was going to dive in to find the truth that very night. When she fell asleep later that night, I gave it 30 minutes and then I crept over to her side of the bed and took her phone from the end table. The good thing is that all I really had to do was check her messages with Tom. He was old enough not to have Instagram or some other social media where his messages could be tucked away. It was just Facebook Messenger and regular iMessage that I chose to check, and the answers were in the latter. Ella had been entirely right. I remember as I read the first message that proved what was happening. I felt as if my heart had stopped in my chest. It felt like actual pain, and for a second, I wondered if I was going to have a heart attack. That left pretty quickly, though, and I was just left there with the truth. If one thing was memorable, it was the BJ. 6 decades and I've never had a mouth that good around my cock. You probably cringed reading that based on how crude it is. Now just imagine that the person being talked about is your girlfriend or your wife. That's how I feel. I'm not going to get into detail, but there were so many more messages of that flavor. The kind of messages you look at and immediately know that there's something inappropriate going on. There were almost no pet names and no declarations of love. It was just randy messages and nudes exchanged back and forth. I didn't dwell any longer than I had to. I just made sure to take as many screenshots as I could, and I sent them all to my phone. From what I could see, they had been sleeping together for at least 5 months, which would mean sometime shortly after he became her direct supervisor. I couldn't sleep beside her for the rest of the night. I was going to act like everything was fine up until the point when I had to serve her with papers, but for that night, I simply couldn't. I went to the living room, and while I tried to fall asleep on the couch, sleep just didn't find me. When she asked me why I was there in the early morning, I just lied and claimed that I couldn't sleep, so I climbed out of bed so I could watch TikTok in the living room. She seemed to be satisfied with that answer and gave me a kiss on the forehead. I don't think she noticed me shrink away because there was nowhere for me to run to. That very day, while at work, I did a lot of research on divorce lawyers, and I eventually came up with one. I met with them after the close of work and paid their retainer immediately. It's hard for me to express how repulsed I was knowing that I was going to have to keep living in the same house as her, so it was my objective to make sure that I got that out of the way as soon as possible. The sooner I served her with papers, the sooner I could tell her to pack her things and get out. I haven't had her served yet, but I'm going to make sure it happens soon. And when it does, I'll be back here to write another update. Hopefully, it goes as expected. Honestly, Tom is just a symptom. The real issue is that your wife decided her integrity had flexible working hours. She didn't slip and fall into the situation. She walked into it, stayed in it, and then came home to you every night like nothing was happening. That level of compartmentalizing doesn't happen by accident. Update 1. It's me again, the guy with the wife, Rose, who was cheating on him with elderly boss at work. Tom is at least 60, and he's her supervisor at work. But it seems she doesn't care about those boundaries or the fact that she's married to me. She has been sleeping with him for close to half a year, so it is a full-blown affair, and I found myself disgusted by her ever since. I made sure that she was served with papers at the first chance that I got. It happened while she was at work, and I'm sure if Ella was a witness to it, she must have known that I had confirmed what she had told me. She said that it had been a rumor in their workplace, so it is possible that more people were able to put two and two together. She tried to call me right away, but I didn't pick up her phone call. Any talking we had to do would be had in person. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb until I was back home later that day. As soon as she got back home, which took her longer than usual, she asked me whether I was pulling some kind of stupid joke on her. I told her that I fully meant it, and I wanted a divorce. Maybe she was confident that she had covered her tracks on her affair, so she tried to act as if she couldn't understand any possible reason for that. I told her to let me check her phone, and she handed it over too happily. I checked her message with Tom, and to no one's surprise, it was completely sanitized. She tried to act surprised that I thought she was cheating on me with Tom, and she jumped quickly to the gaslighting. She said that I must have been insecure if I thought there was something happening there. I laughed and just shook my head. I told her I had screenshotted what that same conversation looked like a few days ago. She told me to let her see, but I refused. We both knew what was there, and I was certainly not going to hand my phone to her in that moment. I told her that she had to pack her things and be out of the house before midnight. She kept trying to get me to talk and explain what I thought I had seen, but I absolutely refused to play her games. We both knew the truth, and there was no point. I just repeated that she needed to go and start packing. She cried a little bit, and next thing I knew, full-blown waterworks. I hadn't even engaged with her that much, but she decided to start begging for forgiveness. She cracked under pressure. She told me that it hadn't been her fault. She claimed that she had done it for the career perks and because she wanted to get favor from Tom at work, especially because he actually had the power to suggest her for important promotions at that point. She wanted to be noble, so she claimed she did it for us, and I just laughed at that. I repeated myself, telling her to start packing. She went down on her knees and wrapped her arms around my legs. I tried briefly to pull away, but I knew she was going to get hurt if I tried any harder. The last thing I needed was a reason for her to claim that I hit her. She said that she wasn't going to let go if I didn't talk to her. That didn't make me change my mind. I started watching TikTok while she cried. It took almost 20 minutes, but she eventually let go of me, still crying, and went to the bedroom. Over an hour later, she came out with 2 suitcases packed and super red eyes. She had been crying up a storm. Her leaving wasn't because she had given up. She just wanted to try a different tactic, because she switched to, "I've left the apartment now, like you wanted. Please, can we talk about this?" I haven't answered her ever since, and I'm not going to talk to her before it is time for divorce business. Update 2. It took long enough, but I'm finally a divorced man. It's horrible to be this at such a young age. I always thought I was making the right choice to prevent this reality, but clearly not. I'll skip to the end. There's no alimony, since we are pretty much on par with our earnings. She earns a little bit more, to be honest. The apartment somehow went to her, despite the fact that she had moved out and she had cheated on me, and that made me very sour. We split our savings, though I got a little edge since I was inconvenienced by losing the apartment. I hate the way the judicial system treats us men. I really do, and this will hopefully be my only time experiencing it firsthand. She lost me, which I know hurt her. This will sound silly, but I think she really still loved me despite having cheated on me. At least in her mind, she still loved me. She treated cheating on me like it was some kind of noble sacrifice that she was making. That pissed me off. You can't cheat and try to feel like you were the good guy. I ignored her every time that she reached out to try and appeal to me, and eventually she got the hint and stopped. But I wanted to crush her. I needed her to hurt for real. The divorce was a direct consequence of her cheating. It wasn't malicious enough. I wanted to do something malicious. So, one weekend, I took my time writing a very detailed email. It included the screenshots of the messages and all the details I had about Rose and Tom's relationship, including the rumors in the workplace. I sent it to her company's HR department. I claimed that it was from a concerned colleague, and of course, I sent it from a fresh email account. That worked exactly as I wanted it to. Between the email from HR and Ella, who had clued me in on the affair in the first place, I found out that an investigation was going on. Some weeks after that, I learned that the company had no choice but to let Tom go. He broke too many policies for them to keep him on. They kept Rose on board for some time, since officially it could be deemed that she was coerced by the power imbalance between the two of them. It was clear the company didn't want to have her on board anymore, though. I knew that they wouldn't want to keep her. About a month after that, the company did what they claimed was a little restructuring, and she was let go during that. So there she was, thrown back into the wild. Tom, who played a big role in the way that she was able to advance through the ranks, is no longer there to hold her hand and pull her up. He might get another role with his years of experience, but she might have a harder time getting a deal that was as lucrative as the one she was on. I think it'll be good for her. She can climb the ladder on her hard work alone, as the rest of us do, and not on sexual favors. She called me, half crying about losing her job, suspecting that I had something to do with it, and half crying about how she wanted us to get back together. She said she can't live without me, and I was glad to see how much our split was killing her. I only picked up the phone because I wanted to hear that she had lost her job, and I got that satisfaction. I have considered blocking her, but she sends drunk messages and whiny messages that give me joy, so I don't think I'm going to do that yet. She cheated on me, and she's feeling the pain that she deserves to feel. I'm not going to feel bad about that. Let's be real. Workplace affairs with a direct supervisor aren't just messy morally, they're messy professionally. You didn't invent that risk. You didn't force her into that situation. She made choices that could blow up her job, her marriage, and her reputation. You simply stopped protecting her from the consequences of those choices. Was the HR email ruthless? Yeah. Was it also predictable fallout from what they were doing? Also, yeah. Hearing her finally feel the loss, the job, the relationship, the stability, probably gave you a sense of balance. Not happiness, not real peace, but balance. Like the universe finally acknowledged that what she did mattered. Be honest. If you were in OP's shoes, would you take the high road, or at least send one very detailed email first? Let us know in the comments below.